start my reading. All right. Hello, everybody. Just remember to put yourselves on mute. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full name for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who does not use a full name or acts inappropriately. As a preliminary matter, this is Athlon Sweeney. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Veronica.
Here.
Suzanne.
Here.
Amanda.
Here.
Sue.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Tara.
Here.
Yay, and Claudia. It looks glitchy. Claudia.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Very good. Thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tamika.
Here.
And Jericho.
In attendance?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This open meeting of the CHS is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the CHS is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to share screen on your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, the chair, note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, please permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct for our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phones or computers when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined via the Zoom meeting. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speaking through the chair. Finally, each vote is taken in the meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote.
Tamika, just to note, Sarah Wright also managed to get successfully connected.
Thank you, Jericho. Saw that. Got a good meeting tonight. Okay, and so I would like to welcome Sarah. I would like to move to approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Anybody second?
Second.
Great. And for roll call voting to move the agenda, Veronica?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
Claudia? She's like, Sarah?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
And moving to so it is approved. Moving to the next agenda item is approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
Thank you. And by roll call vote, Veronica,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Claudia,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Sarah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Sarah,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
and I, which I forgot to do last time, so I'll do it twice. Approved. So the meat and bones of our discussion today is the mission statement and revision presentation and discussion, which is going to be Tara having the floor. So Tara, I'm going to hand over the focus to you and allow you to present, and then we will move into any questions, thoughts, discussion.
And
Thanks.
Sarah, would you like me to give you co-host if you need to share?
I was
your
going to
screen?
ask, do you want me to, I didn't know if you shared any of the documents.
I think it's generally easier if I assign you co-host
Okay,
and then you can share screen as necessary.
okay.
Should be the case now.
You are now the co-host. There we go.
And before and I just know I handed it over to you, I just want to say one thing before we get started. Unfortunately, we need to say that we started a little bit late. So let's hold an awareness about that, because I know people have other things they have to go to.
Yeah, I have a hard stop at 5:30. And you're about to hear my dogs barking their heads off. I apologize for that in advance. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I can show you guys a bunch of stuff. So in regards to sort of the mission, what I'm going to share is 3 different things with you. One is the application that we use in the town of Greenwich, Connecticut for the review of community partners, how we work with them, why we work with them. The intent of the review process by members of the board, it's a board in Greenwich versus the council, is that it's essentially to align the members of the council, the board, with the mission and evaluation of how well our clients, our partners really are doing in terms of not only focusing on meeting the mission of the town as it comes to human services, but making sure that there are a number of things, that there's not redundancies, that we are, I will say from an umbrella perspective, it's an incredibly engaging experience to be able to spend the time with members from each of the organizations, which we interview and speak to, but we have a basic set of rules. The application itself is the same for everyone. There are very few situations in which something doesn't work for one organization or another in terms of the actual content of what they need to actually provide. But what we found was, particularly during COVID, when we had a number of organizations that were sort of pivoting what they were doing, we found through this process a number of areas of redundancy. And we found a number of areas in which some organizations were, some were doing certain things, and another organization may have also been doing it, but one did it better than the other. So we tried to get them to work more closely and collaboratively together. And so the way that the process works is that it's over a number of months of time. We start in May and we finish the whole entire process. Well, the budget, the board finishes its process about 6 months later, when we go in front of the BET, the budgetary organizations, in terms of deploying then the funds to. So it's sort of a bit of a combination between CRC and the council. But I've found that by doing this, and what we do is we assign 2 people per organization. In the town of Nantucket, there's 24 organizations that apply for public funds. And we divide them, and so everybody usually gets 3 or 4 organizations that they meet with. We provide the criteria. They have to do the application process. We actually run a little session before the beginning of each year to remind people what's needed for the application and the process, so that everybody's kind of on the same page and that they have opportunities to ask questions. And then we, determine as a group, each person then presents for their meetings, and we use a form, which is this is the form, the evaluation form. Those that interview the organization and the people in the organization complete this evaluation form, some general stuff, but then we use a rubric and a rating system as to where they fall. One of the key areas is for us, and I think this is important for the council, is not all people in the town don't always understand and realize our role, and don't always realize how much the council is doing for our partners in Nantucket, right? So they don't always realize that. And so this is actually one of the ways that we become, people become more aware. We've also found that through this process, because of the way that we run it, that a number of organizations that don't have as much communication ability, or they don't have people internally that provide, that do outreach and social media and all, that we kind of help bring some of these smaller organizations kind of up, and then they get more visibility. I'll give you one example, which is an organization called Mothers for Others, and Mothers for Others really is a diaper exchange program. And it was just started by 2 moms in town that knew that diapers are, obviously we all know, incredibly expensive. Wipes are incredible. And so they went from being just like 2 moms to, because of this process, we got them visibility, and they have now boomed in terms of not only funding, but have expanded into things like wipes, which are expensive, and and baby clothes and things like that. So it's really a very fruitful process. It is time consuming, and it does require the commitment of people, I wouldn't say to the level of CRC, but it certainly does require a commitment. And I think it's personally for members of the council, I think it's really rewarding to kind of really get the time to meet with people and stuff like that. But you also end up seeing things where some organizations could use help from others, or in some cases, we do not make funding decisions, it's because it doesn't align with the mission of the council. And therefore we will just, because we have a minimum that we will give unless we say no. And the no is usually because, for example, somebody would ask for funds for laptops for their office. Well, that's not providing a service to members of the community. So we're not going to fund that. So things like that. But we take the time to write up an assessment and then provide our recommendations. I took out the name of the organization on this one, but we kind of go through each section, and then we meet as a group, and that's usually a longer meeting to go through our recommendations. As part of this, we also have derived a rubric for each, because as we all look at things a little differently, right? And so some of us have biases one way or another. I have certain organizations that I lean in more towards, probably because I'm on the board of a number of them. But so we created a rubric that really starts with that alignment to the mission. And then there's a certain part of this that's really left to the department, right? That description of need in the community, and collaboration is something that we talk about, but oftentimes it's the commissioner, that knows really about that day-to-day collaboration, rather, because we can ask those questions, but doesn't necessarily always get covered. So the key to this whole process is 1, engagement, 2, knowledge, 3, helping you know, I could really see a scenario in which it would really help Jericho too, to have people who are really deep in with certain organizations. We like to kind of mix it up every few years, that you're not always going to the same organization. I do like to do at least 2 years back to back to the same organization, because then you can really touch on progress, or what goals they had for the year, where they were missing or losing funding, or how they pivoted or shifted, and things like that. So I didn't want to take a ton of time. I want to keep it pretty high level, but you know, it's something that I feel like it's a great, it's time consuming, but it's a really, really great way to really get to know the organizations that we call our partners, right, in the town of Nantucket. So it's and for myself personally, just wanting to get to know even more, but that's, you know, that's personal. But so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm happy to share all of these documents with anybody who's interested. And you know, I can email them to the whole group, or if just one person wants them, I'm happy to do that. We worked very hard. I've been on the town board of human services in Greenwich now for, I think this is my third or fourth term. And we really kind of structured a lot of this and have gotten really better and better and better at it, because when I first started, it was not so great. It was just like meeting, and then you're not really holding people accountable. And this kind of holds some of the organizations accountable to the fact that these are, you know, government and taxpayer dollars that are supporting organizations, and that they recognize that it's really important to you know, to follow sort of the guidance that we are seeking for them to have. Really importantly, just in the whole process, and I'll give you all of the attachments, and just we get some of the history. That's really important. What are they requesting, and why are they requesting it, and being really, you know, committed to that. And we specifically asked that question of, how do you fit within the priorities of the Greenwich Department of Human Services? Are you meeting those basic needs? We define them, and through our strategic plan and our strategic planning is where we really defined what all of these were. So this is kind of the rundown of the whole thing. So I think, you know, it's a valuable process. And and also then the community gets to also understand what we do. It's not just about each of the organizations. It kind of has a flip. And one piece that we've been really pushing a lot of the nonprofits within the town of Greenwich to do is actually recognize the partnership with the department, because that doesn't always happen, right? I mean, like, they go and they do their things and they say, oh, we have this sponsor and that sponsor and this supporter and that supporter, but they don't recognize that it's the town. You know, the town is supporting you too. So we kind of make them put us up on their social media and as one of their, you know, as one of their partners. And so that's hugely important, because the taxpayers in the town of Nantucket, you know, want to know that we're, you know, that we are who we're working with and who we're helping. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you, Tara. And I'm pretty sure you sent these out, but I'm wondering if they got to everybody. Did you?
No, I think I only sent them to you and to Veronica. I don't think I sent them. I didn't want to do anything without permission.
Okay. I think you need to send them to Jericho
Or
Okay.
Tamika.
or Tamika.
Okay.
Sorry, Jericho.
No worries. We're just trying to make sure it's not centralized in one person, because
That's right.
I have a tendency to forget stuff.
Okay.
the-
So Tamika, she will get them and then she will send them out to everybody on
Yeah.
CHS. From
Great.
there. Okay.
Great.
That would be wonderful. So I just now want to take some time. Let's say, what time is it?
Gotcha.
So I have a couple of things to add, Veronica and I as well.
Okay.
So
That's okay, but I just want to put time around it because we're at 5 o'clock and I just want to keep a close eye since people have to finish up. Would say, let's give you guys, do you think 5 minutes to add in the pieces will be good?
I think that should be fine.
And
Veronica,
then
would you
let's
like to
move
lead
on
or?
to opening for
Okay.
questions.
I'll take the lead on this. First of all, thank you very much, Tara, and this is extremely timely. First of all, I do want to say that Greenwich has a lot more in common with Nantucket than most people think.
Yep.
Same way that people say, "Oh, you live on Nantucket, you know, you have a food pantry, or you have people that can't, you know, buy diapers." Greenwich is very much aligned, so it is a perfect example to look at the process that Greenwich is using and potentially applying to Nantucket. The second thing is, independent of what we were talking of, there is an overarching project that's happening in the town. And last Thursday, Jericho and I, along with a number of other people from town organizations, started the process of strategic planning. The select board has had that for a number of years as their goal, and there is a quality of life that we fall under. And Janet Schulte, who has worked with the town for many years as strategic plan, and please, Jericho, correct if not giving the proper title, she took the lead on this, and Brooke Moore was the moderator for our first meeting. What is happening, independent of what we are looking at, it's being examined, and basically the entire human services department is being examined. Many of the pieces that you just described, Tara, we've been doing, and I think at one time it may have, before my history, my terms, things may have been a little bit more cohesive, but over time things have fallen by the wayside, etc. But it's refreshing, because one of the things we talked about in the meeting last week is looking at other towns, and Greenwich is one of the ones that I had suggested after looking at the materials you sent. So that in a nutshell is what's happening on that end.
Thank you.
Jericho, do you want to add in?
Let me add
Yeah,
one
just-
thing, just to make sure, so that people do know why there is actually such alignment between Nantucket and Greenwich. 38% of the population of the 65,000 people that live in the town of Greenwich are either at or below poverty. There's 8% that are by federal definitions, 8% are below poverty, and another 22 are what we call ALICE, which is asset limited. And so those folks are living paycheck to paycheck. And so people always think, well, there's so much wealth in Greenwich. Well, there's actually, there's almost 18,000 clients of the Department of Human Services. So it's a massive number. And so there is that misconception. So I appreciate you. There is a major alignment.
So
Thank you,
just,
Tara.
I do have a couple of points that I want to give
Erica?
Tamika a second.
I have to go to my next meeting. I'm gonna
Leave it
still
running?
record though.
Okay, thank you very much, Tamika.
All right.
Thanks,
I'll see you in the
Tamika.
morning.
All right. See you.
Okay,
Um,
Jericho?
So at a high level, I'll take like maybe a minute and a half here just to run through for people who aren't familiar with the CRC is as closely as the rest of us are. The CRC determines what recommendations for town funding goes to human services organizations. That is a pretty expansive one. It includes us funding everything from A Safe Place, Fair Winds, the sliding scale, and psychiatry programs there. It was originally designed as a small stopgap grant funding organization or a starter organization, but it has gradually evolved into operating budgets and supporting organizations as opposed to programming. It was built in 86, I believe, by a charter change, and it falls under the umbrella of the Council on Human Services. However, we didn't have a human service director or a Council of Human Services for quite a while. So the CRC was operating essentially without oversight because there was no one to do the oversight. COVID and then the Youth Behavioral Health Grant process, that ended up sort of kicking the tires a little bit on the grant process and revealing how it's not quite flexible enough to meet the current needs. And it's not an efficient usage of time, especially if we're trying to add new programming, new sectors of programming, and we're trying to take a more holistic approach to spending overall in an effort to get more funding from the town for human services. So what we've done is we've secured and I'm at my 30-second to a minute warning now, Athelin, don't worry. What we've done is we're looking at top to bottom efficiencies in terms of intra-departmental. Does it make sense for us to do everything in-house? Are there ways for us to maximize my man hours of allocation through connecting with subcontractors to handle certain parts of the process? Do we need to have the same structure where we have, a completely separate board that does 3 separate processes with the same people? And so what I see Council on Human Services doing in this is being at the end of this process, the priority setting and the kind of how much do we need to spend and on what. And then CRC will be a much more limited, they will be offering recommendations and doing some due diligence in terms of outreach and connectivity, as Tara mentioned, as being a benefit to the Greenwich model, the Greenwich model. And then in addition to that, the CHS will do the oversight part. The CRC will do more process-based things where it will be using rubric-based tools and probably with clearer guidelines. For example, I'd like to see the funding split into like 4 large categories depending on sector so that we can do means testing and not means, but needs testing to determine what those allocations should be, that we should do 10 grants at a full amount, that we're not dictating the amount of money that's being given up, and that we're more transparent in conveying our needs and the requirements of the grant to the people who are applying to it. Because it's been more of a top-down process. And that's basically my 2 cents until we get to later in this thing where I can talk about like timelines and RFPs and so forth.
Jericho, can I ask a clarifying question? So for the CRC, would they become more of what their name is? They would be just reviewing the contract.
So there's always going to be the need for the human services director and finance to put together the actual contract, but depending upon the recommendations of this particular consultancy, when we finally secure one, it could be it could be essentially not reviewing contracts, but reviewing RFPs and paperwork to determine because I don't want to be the only one making these decisions. The more input we have, the more representative it should be of the needs. And then then it's a question of CHS and CRC managing to get a representative sample of the populace to inform decision making. But there must, in my opinion, be input from members of the community at least 2 levels: the priority and then the fulfillment of the priority. And then the departmental role is primarily to serve as a neutral communicator of these things out to the community and to the submitters. So yes, CRC would have a more prescribed role, but it should still be functioning as both an outreach effort and an intake of community opinion and sentiment. And then it should be working a little closer with CHS. And this is just how CHS ended up evolving over time. So, when there's a little closer alignment between the CHS and the CRC, plus more distinct and consistent rules for our awarding process, plus more transparency in terms of the RFP, I think we'll have more organization or agency to agency collaboration. We'll have more joint application for funding. We'll have more efficiency in terms of, who's doing what and how those things interact. Additionally, we have, it's one part of human services right now, but it's probably the biggest one in my mind at the moment, which is behavioral health. And we have a couple of umbrella organizations that are additionally coordinating between behavioral health bodies so that there are, it's a way for us to get more stakeholders involved and to have the requirements as we see them as a town communicated more efficiently so that we have a clear funding of programs for specific goals coupled to better tracking. Like, for example, our reporting system is like, I could not graph out the numbers served from our last our three biggest grantees. I could not graph them out over time, nor do a numbers served to money comparison. So it's one of those things where, in tandem with structural changes and contracting, we'll be doing much more data collection and much more organizing of that data so that we can be doing regular needs testing in the community to determine what our prioritization is. And then we can also do vastly more work with who's doing what, how many of these numbers are being served, how much of this need is being addressed, and at what cost. I love data, and I really like having evidence to inform my decision-making process. So I'm looking forward to doing that too.
Tara?
I would say that that's an incredibly important point, which is the part of the reason that we revamped and redid this the way that it is because I basically said to my board, I said, the issue is we need to go get money, right? And the BET they want quantitative, not qualitative information. And we can bring all of these organizations in and they can tell a great qualitative story about needs, the needs and the needs being met. But unless you give the people numbers, it just doesn't work. So that's actually one of the major reasons why we actually overhauled the whole thing through the strategic process, was because of the quantitative needs.
One thing before I go over to Veronica, which I'll go to next, is, and this is just feedback for us to consider and think about how we want to ask for numbers. I know that when I was at Fairwinds, and I'm sure Amanda can attest to this when trying to calculate numbers, we saw people in many different ways. And so when we would be asked for numbers, it was trying to fit like multiple different models of the way we serve people into one question. And that was really hard. So I would say for us to make sure to really consider about how to think about that question.
Yeah.
The apples to apples comparison is huge.
That's the hardest piece. That's the hardest piece.
For example, if a safe place assists 2 people, that could be significantly more money than the food pantry assisting 2 people. So the important thing to remember is to not stick on any one metric and to know that you're balancing your different metrics against each other. Another element here is, things like the expense of providing administration to it. But that would be a benefit to off-island organizations who just have lower cost of living and can deliver that service cheaper. But at the same time, any taxation or any tax funds that are leaving Nantucket don't get fed back into the economy. So there has to be a lot of different balancing metrics and understanding that there is no one true measure.
Yep.
And one of the things you said, Tara, that I liked was that there would be that preliminary time for you guys to meet with all the organizations to answer those kinds of fine-tuned questions so that when they do the application, they know how they're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So I did hear you say that, and I think that's fantastic. And I think we need to make sure if we're doing something of that iteration that we include that in there. Veronica.
Right. 2 points, Tara. You kept talking about collaboration, and that's something that we have become very, very in tune with, and seeing that you're successfully doing it there. Collaboration is something that is important for two reasons. Number one, we're one community and we all need to work together, whatever organization, town, etc. But the other point also is collaboration is an important factor with seeking federal grants,
Yep.
etc. So that's extremely important. So it's I'm happy to hear that that's part of what you are doing there. And it's something we are starting with CRC, making a specific point that it has to be done. And you know, it has to be we have to educate what that
Yep.
means, because there has been some pushback on that of like, well, how can my organization collaborate because I'm in this little silo, but we don't live in silos. We live
No.
in a community. So that's an important point. And the other part is educating. It's not only just educating us as the committees, but educating the public and educating the organizations. So thank you very much for making those points. And, you know, as this process takes place, these are all factors that will come together. So thank you.
Anybody else have either a comment or questions? Jericho, I'm just seeing, is it really important? Because I'm just trying to get to the members for a minute. Is it something really important to say before?
Just that I want to ask Tara next time she's on island if I could pick her brain about this specifically.
Okay.
Yeah. It's too bad I left yesterday.
Any
I'll be
other-
back soon.
any
You know,
other members?
I will just also make a comment. Like one of the surprising things that when we look at, like, for example, when you get to know and you look at the budgets and things of some of the organizations, I'll tell you one thing that we pick on and pick up on is organizations when they do like their annual fundraisers, if their overhead for these fundraisers are outrageous, we will ding them and we'll say, I mean, you had this fundraiser, you raised $1 million, but $600,000 of that went to the venue. Like, that's crazy. So, you know, there's so many great little nuggets of things that you learn in the process.
Exactly. If I can just add to that, because I
Hold on,
did.
because I want to hold on. I just want to go through the chair because like we're starting to bounce around and I want to just calm that down for a second and make sure that certain people who don't always talk get an opportunity just to have a quiet moment and you know, give them a second to kind of think and respond. So I just want to make sure our members who haven't gotten a chance, because the time is ticking down, that you have a chance to ask questions or make comments. So just put your hand up should you want to. Okay, Sarah?
Yes, I'll be really quick. I appreciate, Tara, all of the information you've brought here and the comparison between Greenwich and here. And I would just note, because I'm not sure who is physically on Nantucket or what people read, but the Inky just started last week. They did a piece looking at Orcas Island out in Puget Sound, which is in fact an island, right? It's not a barrier island like Nantucket. It's an oceanic in Puget Sound. But the point is, it's been rapidly, I don't want to say gentrifying, but it's been facing the same kinds of economic issues where there's a real bimodal distribution, I think, between the haves and the have-nots, essentially. And I think it's an occasional series. So if you didn't see it, you know, there's one so far, and that might be a way to get a little more info as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Amanda?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I'm sure this is going to be a continued conversation, but I think we have time for one more question. Sue, is that a scratch or is that a
Yeah,
hand?
no, it's a hand.
That's Sue.
I just wanted to kind of just chime in that I really like that we're reviewing kind of the processes in this council and kind of the whole top-down thing. Because I have a seat on the CRC right now, and I'm still trying to figure out how the priority, like where the priorities come from. I don't feel like it's written down anywhere, or it's from a study from 10, 15 years ago. Like, it's not clear where the community needs are determined. And I think it would be great to have direction from that for that process.
I think it'll also overall make the whole process cleaner and more fluid. Everybody understands exactly what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's fabulous. I guess I have a question for Jericho. For our committee, how do we need to be thinking about questions, feedback, information? Like, are we at a level where what we're thinking is going to be going to the town for feedback about things to make sure that are known from the committee?
So first things first, I've never done a process like this before, so I'm not speaking from experience on this. We have, and this is, I'm just going to bridge this into my updates, because the core update that isn't that there's a COVID clinic this weekend between 9 and 2 at the elementary school cafeteria. That's really the only other announcement I have.
I had
So,
an announcement in there.
Basically, we have got the RFP process out, is going to be shopped out to consultants. We're moving to make a decision and begin the process before town meeting of next year. So it should be underway before town meeting is going. There doesn't look to be anything that's going to require town meeting approval from at least the initial pass on this. So what this committee should do, or this council should do rather, is exactly what it's doing right now. Everyone should be familiarizing yourself on how it works, how it could work based on models similar elsewhere. And then essentially, I think we're going to draft the CHS in to this process. So you guys will be participating in focus groups. There'll probably be interviews. They may be, I would like to have you guys as being sort of an advisory, you and CRC be an advisory council to this process. So in terms of, are we going to get too far ahead of ourselves in this group? No, I think that whatever we do is going to fit within the consultancy process. And then you guys are going to help me make an informed decision on how we implement the recommendations from the consultancy.
Right. I think that's really helpful for everybody to know exactly how the process is going to go. Otherwise, I just felt like it was a little loose, like people didn't know what they were supposed to be doing as far as giving feedback. So that's super helpful. Thank you.
Basically, what I imagine the final role of this committee to be, or this council to be, will be to set the priorities and interpret the data tracking from the CRC grants. And then CRC's role will be evaluating incoming proposals and being pro or against the standards of reporting for quarterly reimbursements. That's my suspicion on how things are going to end up. However, the consultancy could literally just be like, hey, actually, this is a really easy model, done it here, and boom. So I'm trying not to prejudge. And I want this to be a collective decision by the councils involved, being informed on both the current state and what the potential future models are.
Right. So you kind of tossed in your update for human service director like super quickly.
Oh yeah, we got that in. I'll recover it real quick. So I'm scheduling January, February, March, and April's QPR offerings. We're going to have at least one behavioral health first.
QPR is, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, we'll have at least one behavioral health first aid class, which is what QPR is. They're 90-minute classes. They're going to be offered to the public. We're going to do at least one a month, most likely at 4 fairgrounds. And then we're going to take that education module and try and bring it to organizations that need it. And then we're going to be we're doing some more work with Our House to get kind of continued expansion of their offerings. for youth facing stuff. And then the last COVID vaccine clinic of certainly this calendar year, and most likely the fall or the winter spring period, is going to be this weekend. It has a lot of open slots. So if you know of anyone who needs a COVID vaccine, you can sign up online at nantucket-ma.gov/COVID, and they're probably going to be pretty low and probably have extra space. So you could probably do walk-ins Saturday between 9 and 2 at the elementary school cafeteria.
And are the parameters lower? Like, in other words, can somebody under 65 go?
Anyone who has not had a new model COVID, basically anyone who has not been vaccinated after September of this year, is advised to get one. This is going to be they have Moderna and Pfizer. It's the most recent Omicron variant targeted one. There may be another clinic or two. I'd like to get another clinic or two in the spring, specifically for the returning or first time seasonal workers. We know tend to be under vaccinated. So those are the two. But as of right now, the last guaranteed COVID shot I know of on the island will be this weekend, 9 to 2 at the elementary school cafeteria.
And so we have a number of folks. I think, Veronica, you said your term is up in 24. Right. And Tara as well. Did you say Tara's was up?
And Sue.
Yeah, I
Sue.
think so.
It's Sue.
Sue.
Okay, so Sue and Veronica, and mine is also up, and I am not going to reapply for my position. I think with the move and being here in North Carolina and a number of changes just with my family needing me. And I think you guys are going into a really exciting new chapter, and thank you, Veronica, for all your support being co-chair. I really appreciate it. I just want to say it's been wonderful working with you and with you, Jericho, and everybody. But you've been a huge support, Veronica, so thank you.
Thank you, Athelyn, for your time and efforts and tutelage, because you brought me along. So thank you.
And so we need to start talking about who would be interested in being in the chair position and the co-chair position, because we want Veronica and Jericho and myself really talked about keeping the chair co-chair going and moving forward. And Veronica, through our conversations, I know you're interested in the chair position, so you'll be putting in your name. But I want to make sure I saw Sue. Yeah. Make sure that everybody knows that they can, and I'm going to assume send their interest into Tamika. Do I have that right? Okay. Do you have a particular deadline for that?
So there is no necessary deadline. It's an internal determination by this council. So whenever you guys want to, essentially, we can do that. And then anyone who is interested in reapplying, you don't have to do anything until this summer, at which point, when your term is about to expire in June, you would just send in an email to Erica saying that you want to be, that you're reapplying. And then the same process that got you here should get you reapplied for your next term.
Right. And much like when Brooke was finishing out and I took over, I was co-chair for a while in the position of co-chair without a chair, running the meeting. So I think we will do that same process, Veronica, and then you guys can get all the names in the hat and then do the votes. Does that make sense, Jericho?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Great. I think that puts us at a place to adjourn. Was there anything that Jericho or Veronica had to say prior to us adjourning the meeting? Yes, Veronica.
One thing that I would like to announce, because we did not meet last month, and since then, the youth behavioral health grants have been awarded, and we had a total of $635,000 an ask. And of that, 175,000 was awarded. And the awards went to ASAP, the Boys and Girls Club, Dreamland, Star of Nantucket, and an organization called Horses for Mental Health.
Mm.
People may be familiar with ASAP, Boys and Girls Club, Dreamland, and certainly Star, but being island organizations that we funded in the past, and they've got some unique programming they're going to be doing. But Horses for Mental Health is a nationwide organization that has a branch in Sandwich, and we awarded them a grant that will take a group of students or young people off island for a complete day with transportation, supervision, et cetera, to their facility in Sandwich, and do a very structured program during the course of a day. If anyone's interested in more information on them, please, feel free to contact me, or Horses for Mental Health is just, so we're very excited to see the outcome. And these grants the monies will end for July 1st when the next grant cycle starts. And we are in the process right now. The RFP has gone out for the cannabis, traditional cannabis support grants, and also our human services grants. And the deadline for those RFPs, I believe, is next Friday, excuse me, which is the 14th. And we will begin the deliberations examination the following week, excuse me.
Nice timing with the teacup too, though. I like it.
And I think that's it right now.
Very good. Thank you for that, Veronica. Okay, can I have an emotion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Veronica for roll call.
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Claudia. And can you unmute?
Aye.
You. And last but not least, Sue.
Aye.
And I say aye. Great, adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Happy
Thanks so much.
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Yes, happy
Holidays.
holidays.
Yeah.
And as always, if anybody has any questions about anything going on around town, feel free to reach out to me. I'll try and get an answer for you. And thank you all for coming.
Thanks,
you.
Sarah.
Thanks, Marco.
Take good care.
Bye.